Thank you all for giving your time and your energy to engage in this conversation. This is a queer event organizers panel for Seattle Pride. We all reside in the Seattle area and organize events predominantly in the greater Seattle area. And so without further ado, I will let our amazing panelists introduce themselves. If everyone could please share your name, pronouns, and what organization, if you represent an organization, what organization you represent.
Okay, I guess I'll go first. I'm Noelle. I use she, her pronouns, and I do I'm like a social media director for the Social Queer, for Seattle.
I'll go next. I'm Jazz. I use she, they pronouns, and I am the organizer and creator of QPOC Hikers.
Hello, everyone. This is Stacy Bass Walden from Alki Beach Pride. She, her, they, them, founder and event organizer.
Hi, everyone. I'm Candida Valentina. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the founder and producer of Queerly Beloved Review. We started in the Southeast, and we are now bi-coastal here in Seattle, as well as Atlanta.
Hey, guys. My name is Nikita, go by Mixed Venus on stage. I am one of the co-hosts, co-organizers of Swoon Seattle, and my pronouns are they, them.
My name's Carla Rantz. I am an organizer for the people. I do independent events, so I'm the creator organizer of The Beat, which is a queer music POC show where we interview and do performances, and then also Kiki Cabaret, which is a monthly QT Pog variety show at the Timber Room.
Hello, I'm Caleb Dameron. I am with Beauty Boys. I'm the creator or founder and creative director of Beauty Boys, Seattle-based organization that started in 2016. Yeah.
And can you share your pronouns with us, Caleb, real quick?
Oh yeah, he, him.
Thank you. I think the easiest way to start this off is what we just did, to have everyone just popcorn it, because I think everyone's view on the screen is going to be different. So I can't say who's going to go first per se and say we're just going to do clockwise, because I don't know how everyone's being seen. So I will ask the questions, and then whoever's comfortable answering, if you are comfortable answering, just feel free to jump right in. And so my first question is, why did you get involved in event organization for the queer community?
I think for me, it was kind of out of necessity. I, being a musician here in Seattle myself, kind of saw a void and a opportunity to highlight some of the amazing talent that we do have. And so I did just that and kind of started it along with Robert Roth from Queer Space Magazine as just a way to kind of highlight the music, particularly the music scene and the queer music scene here in Seattle. That I still think can be filled even more.
Just to piggyback off of that, I felt like mine was kind of out of necessity too. I was an independent burlesque performer at the time, and I saw that there was a divide between the queer scene and our burlesque scene, And it was either you can go to a drag show or a burlesque show, and there was no interlapping of the two communities. And I wanted a space, I saw a need for a space that was very inclusive and diverse and showcased all queer artists from all spectrums. Doesn't matter what their performance medium is. It can be drag, spoken word, live singing, it can be cirque, burlesque, whatever the case is. And I wanted to create a stage for all of that to come together and highlight who we are as a community.
I love that. Yeah. For me, it was really about, in 2016, everything was so fractured. And, we saw where that led with us getting Trump in office and a Republican Senate and where that's led us now. And so really, I felt like we needed more space for our community to come together and to really unify, and to see beyond like our little differences. And wow, it opened up a door for me to see even more what is lacking for us. And it has been a journey beyond what I like ever expected. So yeah.
Felt like I was in class there, holding up my hand there so that everyone would know I was going to speak. Um, the story for how Alki Beach Pride even started was, I'm much older than everyone on here, but after going to the bigger Pride events, it just became very crowded, almost to a point where it was not enjoyable. And I just happened to live on Alki and decided to do something in my apartment. That was nice. And then my wife said, we can't do that again because it was a lot of people in our apartment. So we just decided that the beach is a perfect spot for all ages. There's no fee, everything is free. Being outside, connecting with nature and not having it be overwhelming for folks. That's how ours came together. And it wasn't Alki Beach Pride at that point in time, but because the public asked for that, we said, okay, let's see if we can do this. And it's grown. It's a little bit more than I can handle. We'll see what happens with that later, but honestly, it was something to be outside and not have it be so corporate takeover. And it's turned out a pretty good event, but it's still growing, and I think it might become a little bit corporate in the future because that's how things get paid for, honestly. And that's that. I'll hit my mute now.
I'll piggyback off of that, being another outdoor space. Yeah, just started this hiking group because we're in the Pacific Northwest, which is, as we know, predominantly white. And the outdoors is a predominantly white male space. I think people of color, queers, need a place to gather together in a space where they feel is safe. The outdoors itself is a very healing space. Just taking a half-hour walk can literally reset your whole mood, and it's very good for just your entire soul. I'm like, getting worked up. And so QPOC Hikers is for queer people of color, as the name states. Allies are welcome. Be smart. Be educated. It is not a place for you to come and ask the inappropriate questions. And I think, yeah, just having that space has helped. It's a sober space. We have a lot of queer spaces that are geared towards drinking. That's how we mingle. That's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think getting outside, getting back into nature is a great way to be also.
I can go next. I wasn't thinking about my lighting, but I'm like really feeling this lighting right now. So the way that Swoon actually started was in Chicago by two really beloved people to me. And they started Swoon out of a want for a space that is specifically centering and holding very specific values at the core of what we do. So Swoon is a queer dance party, monthly dance party that centers Black, Indigenous, people of color, trans, GNC folks, and femmes. And that came about and a recognition that the queer community is not inclusive to all. Just because somebody says that it's a queer space does not mean it is inclusive or safe or affirming space for everybody that's there. And so that was one of the things that came out, or one of the reasons that Swoon came to be, and also recognizing that we have so much talent within our community, and that's where the money needs to go, and finding ways to have the money go there from us was really important.
I'm hearing a lot of like, there was a need, there was a want, there was almost like a calling. And I'm going to pause for just a moment, only because we have a little technical difficulty with Noelle's sound. And so Noelle cannot hear any of us. And so I'm going to ask Noelle to unmute and see if we can hear her. But that's why I was just looking down for that. I do apologize. So she might have to leave and come back, which I wanted to make sure was going to be well timed. So let's just have one moment for that.
Okay. All right, hold on one second. Okay, so I got involved with the Social Queer when the Social Queer was like started by Christina, who is the founder of the Social Queer. I got actually invited to one of her very first Social Queer events, which was actually a pre-game party for one of her events, and there was like 20 people there, and I just was like really wanting I think I've been in Seattle for like maybe 5 years, and there wasn't really any sort of community where you could like meet people besides like her things. And so so I really liked what she was trying to do as a part of like getting people in the community together, and creating a space where people can like meet each other. And so I just became really good friends with Christina, and she had asked me maybe like a year and a half later, if I could take over her social media accounts for Instagram, as well as help like manage the Facebook page. And so that's how I got involved with the Social Queer. And since then it's grown to like almost 3,000 members. And it definitely growing as far as myself when it comes to managing like the social media accounts and stuff like that. Always like a brand new experience and learning things. So that's how I got involved.
Cool. I love hearing everyone's different experiences on why they got involved. And again, like I heard, it's a need, it's a want. It was almost like you felt like there was a need for it. And so to continue on, I want to ask, how do your events contribute to the queer community? And I'm going to have a subtext in there of if you want to tell me what community means to you, but how do you feel your events contribute?
One thing for me that I saw right when we got started is there was a lack of equality in pay when it came to performers in the local scene. And I felt like it was really, really important for us to make sure that if someone's getting on stage and presenting their art to people, that one person wasn't in a tip spot where they're guaranteed nothing, and one person's getting from RuPaul's Drag Race is getting paid $10,000 to show up for a night. It felt really that there was a lack of equity in there. So that was a very big focus, and it continues to be a focus, asking questions about like what this community needs, and doing our best to address those needs, for sure.
Yeah, to kind of, I feel kind of the same way about that. We actually had a couple events where we had RuPaul's queens come in, and each individual local performer got paid $75 versus what was getting paid out to the headliner. So the way that I organize my events is that I put the priority of my performers first, and I make sure that they get paid what they're worth. And so that's been a huge thing for me. Ways that I feel that it helps contribute to the community is because my events aren't just show events. We also do education panels where we've been invited to conventions. We've done anything from queer conventions to cosplay conventions to kink conventions. So that's our motto is there's always room for new ideas, and that is inclusivity, diversity, education, entertainment, activism, and slaying. So that's Queerly Beloved's motto. So it gives our performers and artists a platform for their voice, for their message, for their art. And as far as what does community mean to me, I think it's something that we're all still working with. There's a little saying that I've always said, and it's kind of cutesy or whatever, but I always tell people there's no community without you and I. So yeah, my fiance laughs at me when I say it, but to me, it means a whole lot because it's actually true. And then, Gaga pops in my head every once in a while, the whole you and I thing, but that's community has to come together, not just when things are great and it's pride time, but when stuff gets hard, like what we're going through now. And like, that's when community kind of strives to show its true colors. And we got to be there for one another because we get enough crap from the outside world. We don't need to give it to each other. So.
Chime in. Community to me is, I mean, in the simplest of terms, I think people who share our marginalizations, essentially. And so, it was very natural and very easy for me, I think, to create a space to draw in people like me. And, that's, I think, my contribution, I think, is bringing in people like me. I specifically wanted to target, queer Black musicians, and it the beat we did gave artists an opportunity not just to perform, but we did interviews for half of the show. So exposing people to who we are and not just what we do, I think was really important to hear the stories behind this music that everyone loves to consume. But actually knowing like the motivations behind all of that was really important, I think, to have those stories themselves actually told. And I will piggyback on what both responses before mine about paying people. Is just absurd to me. Some of the venues and what they make versus what they pay. And I also wanted to bring people together to kind of establish a equal playing ground. And it's so refreshing to hear everyone saying the same thing, because I know if we're all organizing and we all have standards, then that's going to become the standard for everything. And so that is really powerful to hear. Yeah, and I think I'll leave it at
I think again, with Tupac Hikers, obviously, it's created a space for people to gather in the outdoors. We've seen in the almost 1 year of existing, doing actual hikes, different groups coming out in different places every time, which is absolutely incredible. Like I'll rotate through Seattle trails or going a little bit east in like Tiger Mountain area, Cougar Mountain, maybe a little bit more east of that, and then south to Tacoma. And it's interesting to see who can travel, who can provide transportation to other hikers, who just shows up. And it's always so interesting. I'm like, all right, let me create this event, and here we go. Like, if it's just me, it's just me. But it's blown my mind. We have, I would say, an average of maybe 5 to 10 people coming out each time and just enjoying themselves to the fullest. We usually grab lunch afterwards and kind of just chat and get to know each other more, because you can only talk so much when you're kind of single file. But yeah, I think just creating that community has definitely brought people together. I even would mention, like, oh, have you heard of like the swoon event that's happening later, or like the social queer event, or whatever, and kind of just plugging different groups, because we all are here to support each other. That's what we're doing, and creating that community. So it's really nice. I'm like, no, I haven't heard, or yeah, I'm definitely going. I'm like, great, see you there. So I think that it's like creating community and then extending to other communities, and it's all one giant thing, which is just awesome to see.
I'm gonna piggyback off of what Jasmine said, and I think that, like, for the social queer, we not only like create a really like a space, like in person, but like a virtual presence as well. And I think the one cool thing about social queer is that, like, we have like this huge like group page where other people that, like Jasmine, with like, hiking, and then all the, and her like events and stuff like that, can like post, and people that are like new to the community that like have heard of social queer can see all these different like events that are happening within the community. And I think that's like a really good like networking source, as far as like what the social queer can provide to our community. And as far as like for like as in person and stuff, we like do a lot of like happy hour events, like monthly happy hour events, where like I think for community, I see a lot of new people coming and a lot of new faces. We just like to provide that space, or the opportunity where people can like meet each other and be like, oh, I'm new to Seattle, and like I want to know what's out there. I want to know, like what's going on within Seattle, and like what night events are happening, and what like book clubs and stuff like that. And so I think that's a really cool thing that social queer provides for the community.
I want to jump back in, if that's okay. Just like being new to Seattle, just like for being here for a year, I want to say the social queer was the first social organizer, like first social event that I went to, and it was amazing. Great way to meet new people.
So 100% idea of community is definitely shifting for me in this moment. But before, it wasn't, the space cultivated by Swoon wasn't only just for folks with like shared identities, with the very specific identities that we're centering, but also with shared politics, and that being a space where people know where we stand, because you'll probably find me drunk on a mic saying where we stand, making it very clear that it's a space where we do not call the police in any way, shape, or form. We make sure that folks understand who to go to. I'm sure we'll get into that later, but also wanting to echo what other people say about pay. Too often, as everybody was saying, like, we get paid shit. Like, people want to say it's the exposure or whatever, like that doesn't cut it. So we try our best to pay folks like their asking rate, and if we can't, we're honest. We're like, hey, we actually can't afford that right now. Can we hire you in the future when we can? And all of our funds that we get either go to paying the hired talent, the venue, and donations, and that's it.
Just real quick, I want to vouch what Sam was saying because I was actually booked to work a swoon event before the whole COVID thing hit. And then obviously the event didn't happen, but they were hand in hand talking with me about payment, making sure that I was good with everything and everything else. So I appreciate you.
Stacy, did you have anything you wanted to add about how your events help the community or contribute to the queer community? And I also just wanted to chime in real quick. It's Nikita. I know it says Sam, but that's Nikita. Just for future, I know it's confusing.
Yes, to answer your question, Carmen, our little area is kind of unique, and I'm thinking everyone's been down to Alki at some point in time, maybe not Alki Beach Pride, but just on the avenue itself, there are 4 LGBTQ owned businesses down here. And for me, community is trying to involve those businesses, not just during the summertime, but during when it's kind of ghostly down here, to have a bingo night, specials at different of the businesses that are here, bonfires. For me, the whole community answer is kind of sharing what is here. I would say the majority of the folks that come down here are white. And I really wanted to see more people of color come enjoy the water and enjoy the restaurants that are here, the cafes that are here. Over the years, I've built a little bit of a relationship with some of the business owners. Some of them have moved away. They couldn't survive the high rates down here, but it has its own feel of community. And even though this will be our 6th year, it still feels fairly new to like the social media groups. Some folks don't know that there's an Alki Beach Pride. And as far as that second portion you guys were talking about, paying entertainers, this is still new for us as far as getting funds to pay entertainers. And most of it, the small amount that we do get goes to paying for the venue, paying for the permits, which is a whole new thing with the park department. But we do try to make sure that everyone is paid equally. And most of our entertainers were local. We haven't had any high profile folks anyway. I think I answered your questions.
You asked.
The community to me means sharing the space for everyone. And I won't touch on the police portion of it. That's a whole nother topic.
Yes, and I think that's a great point, and actually a really good segue into our next question. And so I want to ask more specifically, how can your event and your event attendees, I'm going to switch this up a little bit, how can your event and your event attendees, so those attending your events, in addition to the events you throw, help contribute to the BIPOC community? And BIPOC, for those out there who may not know, is the Black, Indigenous, people of color communities. How can they help those communities to thrive instead of just surviving?
The first and easiest way is to support the events, because I can't be the only one who's thrown an event that not a lot of people showed up at. And we know there's community out there. And so it's really showing up for each other. You know, I do also know a few organizers, I won't name anyone, but, you know, only seem to show up at their own events or when they're performing, but we don't see them any other time. And I think that's a little problematic. I do think we as a community need to support each other, like has already been said several times. So I think in order to not just survive, because we've seen so many of our events end because of attendance or lack of this and that. If we want to thrive, we have to support, and we have to come out and show up for the events that are happening. And so I think there can be even more. I love all of the stories of the networking between different organizers here. I'm fairly new-ish, so I am excited to now connect with everyone here as well. But I think a lot more of that should be happening too, so that we can continue to build and grow and actually, flourish instead of just surviving. And yeah, I think that's the events, that's the organizers, but especially the attendees. Really to events and supporting the things that are happening.
Yeah, to agree with everything that you just said, and supporting the events, especially when you go to events with a lot of my performers who do drag and burlesque, tipping is a huge thing. I had a couple of spoken word artists who came and were surprised that people were throwing money at them on the stage for their spoken word. And so definitely being there, supporting, tipping the performers is a huge thing. Donating to them or any of their causes even. And it doesn't just have to be monetarily that you can support. You can follow them on social media. You can share the event pages. You can share the invites. You can share mass information to all of your people to kind of broaden that audience. And that then in turn helps us be able to be seen more, broaden our audience and everything else. And so there's multiple ways you can do it, whether it's monetarily or just being there and kind of helping out and spreading the word. When it comes to our community, Queerly has always been a huge BIPOC production. We try to be, majority of my cast are always POC, and a lot of times people look at me and they don't see that I am Latina, because I do I lack the melanin, but, and then I'll talk and I'm just like, "Que mucho te jode, mija?" And they're like, "Oh, never mind." And I'm like, yeah, it happens. It's fine. But that's been like the forefront of everything that we do. So supporting that way.
Yeah, I think another way that I'm learning, as we go is making space in like scheduling events. There's so much rush, such a flooded market in Seattle. There's so much rush to just like have an event for every single thing that's going on at every moment. And when you're done with that one, you go to the next one, you just schedule it. And it's like, everyone needs to get the fuck out of my way because I'm scheduling it here. But taking a step back and thinking that, like, for me, I have a lot of privilege and I have a lot of opportunity to produce. It's a lot of things have just been handed to me. The world was given to me, right? I have access to whatever I want, basically. And so I have to step back and say, like, okay, what other events might be happening right now, and talk to my friends, talk to to other event organizers that might be throwing events, and make sure that I'm not impeding on other people's space, and try to be respectful and communicate. And I think that's why I love having these conversations with other event organizers, so I can know everyone's faces and be connected and be a better ally in general. Yeah.
I love the question around like thriving, because when I think of it, especially like POC communities, like queer Black communities, like thriving, coming together, having a great time, like throwing the fuck down is like what we do. And like historically is how we've come together. And it's so beautiful in that way. And so like, to me, make sure that that's sustainable, like that can still happen, is like a lot of work around making sure that the folks that we're inviting into the WISP space feel safe and are actually safe. And so like I said before, like we have very strict policies around like no calling the police. We, if you ever see like an organizer there, eyes constantly moving, vibe checking, like having conversations with folks. If somebody approaches us with like a discrepancy or feeling uncomfortable by somebody, like to make sure that we're able to thrive in a space, like we baseline have to make sure that like we're actually providing a welcoming and safe space for folks. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
It's not easy to just say. It's very easy to say a space is safe. It's a lot of work to make it that. So I, you know, hats off to you. That's great. It's super fucking important. And I obviously like not calling the police makes perfect sense. I've never actually thought about that as like a just a rule of thumb. So that's really great. That's a learning moment for me. So thanks.
Yeah, I'll even chime in on that because I've attended a couple of Soon's events and I love Nikita as an MC. It's, I mean, everything I wanted, like everything that like I want to say, and Nikita just said it and says it perfectly and just completely honestly and with no, like all candor. And I think one of the strongest things about Swoon is it's unapologetically Swoon, creating a safe space for the people that it prioritizes, which is who are the people that Swoon prioritizes? And let me just jump that back into you because I don't want to speak for you.
I mean, no, yeah. I mean, thank you so much. I'm usually drunk as hell on that stage and I have that microphone in my hand, so thank you. But yeah, I mean, the reason why we have certain policies and like would love to talk more like offline, whatever, about like what we specifically do. But we center Black, Indigenous, people of color. We center transgender, nonconforming folks. We center femme folks. And these are all folks who are targeted by our society more so than anyone else. And that's not even, there's so much more. We have still so much room though to grow when it comes to like accessibility. We see that as a glaring growth spot that we want to address, to make sure that once again, everybody in our community can thrive.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I want to ask if anyone else wanted to answer on how your events or how your event attendees can help the BIPOC community to move from just surviving to thriving. If anyone else wants to contribute, no obligation, of course. Not everyone has to talk.
I think getting people gathered outside, even if you've had like a bad week at work, maybe just to come together with a community where you feel comfortable in sharing your experiences and kind of not really like offloading, but it's kind of like offloading. You're letting it out, you're releasing it, you're sharing in similar experiences maybe, and then it kind of like revitalizes you and you're like, oh yeah, okay, I can do this. Like I can get through the next week or whatever. And I think, yeah, at that point, you don't feel like you're just surviving your day to day, but you're involved in a bigger community where you can then go and thrive.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm going to just check in just because I know everyone's working with different devices. Stacy, Noelle, did you want to contribute or do we want to move on to the next question?
I think that I just realized the importance of supporting each other is just like I just really want to emphasize on that. I think I love all the different like communities and what you guys bring to the community as well. But just with everything that's going on now, I think that more than ever, like our voice as organizers and stuff, like we have a really big influence on our community. And I think that we should take like advantage of that and like, and supporting each other and like having our voice be heard and supporting one another is like such a big thing that like now that's happening with everything. And that's all I have to say about that. But yeah, I think as an event planner and as someone that works for the social queer, I know that like supporting my community, since I have such a big, like I have an influence, and I have the right platform to like support each other, or like support other people and support the Black Lives Matter movement. And I think that I think that I don't do it as often as I should, and just having this conversation is really like eye-opening for me to be able to like realize that I need like be more supportive to, you know, my community as well. So that's it.
And Carmen, I want to jump in and answer that question. When I spoke to you yesterday, we were talking about trying to have some sort of protests over here on Alki, and I really didn't know how to put that together. But I know that the community, just specifically over on Alki, they want it, and they're looking to me to organize that, and I really don't know how to put that piece together. So if anyone on here has any tips or connections that they could email me. We really want to do something. We see the chalk writings on the tennis courts. We see the chalk writings on the sidewalks. But I don't know how to put that together for our community. In the West Seattle Junction, they have been pretty good about putting groups together, but once again, I don't know anyone there. And it's not necessarily for the queer community, but I would like something to be started on this side that has to do with the Black Lives Matter. So if anyone has any comments, you can email me. I'm guessing all of our emails will be attached to this.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And another point of the panel was, I'm a big networker and I love bringing people together. And so, you know, I hope that everyone can connect. And I want to actually, I know Jasmine had something to say. So Jasmine, you had something to contribute, and then I'll jump in.
I was just gonna say, I know there are Instagram groups popping up left and right. There's one for Seattle protests, which is announcing where protests are or information about certain protests. So I don't know if you can somehow get in contact with them and let them know that you want to start something at Alki.
Social media is a beautiful tool. Thank you, Jasmine. Yeah, and I think what I want to jump ahead with that question actually is, how do you think Pride and other queer events can help the movement that's demanding justice for the Black community, and particularly the Black trans community? We are a part of something really special, being alive during this time. And I think we've all said, like, we're organizers, we're influencers, we're leaders in our community. And I think it's really special to hear from all of you on how we can keep this movement going, to keep demanding justice for the Black community, keep demanding justice for the Black trans community.
I think that Pride, especially now with virtual Prides, that they can help by shining light on our BIPOC community, especially our Black trans family and performers. Speakers, activists, it will allow them to showcase their art, allow their messages to be heard. And, you know, for far too long, Pride has been commercialized and pretty much run by cis, white, gay male community. And there's lots of gatekeeping that happens, and that's got to stop. And now is the time more than ever, especially with virtual prides and virtual shows. It's gotten more of a far-reaching audience than a regular pride, because there are plenty of people who don't like crowds. There are plenty of people who aren't out yet. There are plenty of people who are even just afraid to go to Pride for whatever reason. So whatever the reason is of not going, now with virtual Pride and having access to all the social media platforms and everything else, they're able to safely watch from home, see people that look like them, see people that represent their message, see people that are actually like living their authentic lives, and they can feel a little bit better about themselves. But with us as organizers and producers, we have to do the work to shine light on these BIPOC performers, artists, and everything else, so that way their message is heard, so that way that platform is risen to a level that it's seen everywhere. We can't just stand by and just, oh yeah, that's great, we'll put one or two up there, and then, you know, everybody else is mainstream or the gatekeeping performers that we always keep out there. So that's just, it's up to us to make that happen. And I think with virtual Pride and things like this, now's the time more than ever to reach everywhere.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I definitely want to second that. That who are you your money to? Who are you whose voices are you uplifting? Also, these are things that should have been done before this point. And I see no reason or no excuse as to why it shouldn't happen going forward. Also, wanting to highlight the fact that like we are our community. And so as some of you probably seen, like Swoon's social media has been very quiet. But my personal social media, I've been very out. And that's just being like, as a person of color, as a Black person during this time, my organizing has changed. My way of of doing activism, of outreaching to my community has definitely changed. And so I definitely understand that there is this like need and very valid statements around like, we have a platform, like we are community organizers and we should be doing something with it, but also holding grace for the fact that like Black organizers during this time, it's just expecting to do so much when you're already tired. And so I hear that, but then that being said, this is also the time for non-Black organizers, non-Black party throwers to also step it up.
Just kudos to that. I really appreciate what you said there.
Have to chime in because I could not agree anymore with that. I think, yeah, there's this huge pressure not only to organize, but also being visible and being someone in community. We're just bombarded with questions and people need and want direction, which is very valid, and they want to help. And so that labor falls on us as organizers as well, which is incredibly exhausting. We're doing outreach just by existing at work, just by being in spaces so that people can throw their little ideas and all this, our way. And so, yeah, it's incredibly exhausting. I agree. I think non-PLC organizers and people can also help to relieve some of that labor. But the main thing I think that we have to do is listen and actually ask what Black or what the BIPOC community wants, because it's a problem that we have at work too, where you have people who may not necessarily be involved in the community making plans and things for what that community needs without hearing directly from that community what they want. And even me being a Black queer person, I'm not trans, and so I need to involve the trans community if I want to throw a trans event or something that wants to, I don't think you have to be to throw an event to center that community, but without having input for that community, how do you know what they want and what they need? So I think listening and asking those questions is also extremely important if we want to create space to help and to push the movement forward. And especially when it comes to Black Lives Matter, I mean, I don't think a lot of Black people or anyone I know of asked for CHOP or for any of all of this extraneous stuff that seems to be happening. It's kind of a byproduct instead of coming directly to the source and finding out what people need and what they want and being able to provide that. But yeah, I won't rant too much. I'll get excited.
One thing I would also, Carl Ron's mentioned listening, and I think it's really important as a white cis man and, for other white cis men out there watching, that we can't rely on the BIPOC community to tell us when we're being racist, or to tell us when we've said something, or where we're having racist thinking, or whatever it is. We have to ask ourselves those questions, and we have to challenge ourselves to be better. And it's not always easy, and the answers aren't always pleasant. I'm consistently catching myself. I'm consistently catching myself, and I try really hard to be a really good ally. And I'm by no means perfect, but it's not anyone else's responsibility to improve except for my own. So I would also challenge the white community to do that work yourself, and then come to the table prepared to have important conversations with people, and then ask questions, and be prepared for people to tell you no, and be prepared for people to tell you to fuck off, or pay me, or any of those things, because that is where we're at. We should have been doing this work a long time ago, and it's time to do this work right now, and it's our responsibility. So that's what I would say on that.
I'm going to now. So I want to respect everyone's time. We are approaching the end of the conversation, and what I want to ask is a pretty big question, just to wrap everything up. And I want to understand the effort that goes into each of your events. Obviously, you all throw similar different events. We have some outdoors events, we have independent event organizers, we have happy hours, we have night events happening, but what effort goes into those events? And if you could have more resources to plan your events, what would they be? And with COVID happening right now, and we don't see an end to it anytime soon, how are we adapting to that? And so I will re-say that one more time, because I know it's a really big question, but I want to understand the effort that goes into your events. If you had more resources, what would they be? And how are we adapting to COVID?
Let me just jump right on in on that one. What goes into our events typically would be starting a year in advance with permits, specifically with the Parks Department. If I was going to ask for one resource, just one, is to have the Parks Department work with us. Work with me, because we see things happen differently over here on Alki, specifically with parks for our Pride event. We're told no a lot when I've seen it happen for a yes for other events, arts fairs, sub pop concerts. So I would really, really like the Parks Department, City of Seattle, to work with us, invite us to their office so that we can sit down and hash out what their requirements are, what we can't do, and how is it affecting us for our event for COVID. Obviously, we're not doing any in-person events, and everything is being kind of spread out within the businesses that I mentioned before, letting them take care of having the specials on a weekend that we're going to have in August and in October. So the COVID has changed things for everyone. Alki Beach Pride is not doing a virtual piece. but we are partnered this year with Pacific Northwest Black Pride, and they will be having a virtual portion in October. Probably the 17th, but you'll see things out on social media giving more details on that. That's all I have to say.
Okay, I'll go second. I think the big thing that, like, as social queer goes is finding a venue. Mainly, like, like our events, we've started doing a like after hours event, and then we usually do like a happy hour event, and the after hours events are like, what goes into that is like finding a venue and that like works for our price range. And I think that's like a really difficult thing that we as like an event planner is difficult for us, is to find an event space that's big enough to host the amount of people that we need. And then we do, what else we do is we usually have like a nonprofit that we like to support, like some of our if we're having tickets sold, a lot of like part of our like profits go towards that event, those nonprofit events and stuff like that. And so yeah, I just like mainly like finding a venue that in Seattle is really hard for us. That's something that we're struggling a lot, is finding a venue within like in Seattle area for that can host a group big enough for us.
And not charge $10,000 to open the doors.
Yeah, exactly.
Ooh, yeah, that'd be nice. That is hard. And how is social queer adapting with COVID right now?
Well, we have been doing, when COVID hit the first time, I mean, I guess it's still going, but we did like a virtual happy hour, which was, you know, there's a lot of people that it's really hard to organize something like that, because like, you know, we're talking over each other and stuff like that. And then there's like little groups, little like chat rooms you can go into and stuff like that. But as far as like how we're adapting, a lot of it is mainly like on our just like Facebook page, and not so much as like you know, in-person stuff. So we're using our platform to, you know, communicate with our, you know, community.
I can go next. As for like the effort that goes into the events, it's like a long laundry list of things that actually need to get done, whether that be like ads, venue, communicating with the venue, which seems always has to keep going, booking talent, supporting talent while they're there. I also DJ and MC. So I mean, and once again, like vibe checking the whole time. So like during an event, like there's a lot of effort that goes into it. Everybody's event. Find an organizer for an event and watch them. If they're not just like constantly running around, like look for the person who's like this, and you found the organizer. But as for if there was like more resources, more money. We have so many beautiful resources in our community. We have so many people who are doing so much like bomb ass shit right now. Sorry, I didn't even know if I could swear on this, but we have so many brilliant people that have such great resources that we can tap into. We just need the funds to be able to pay everybody so that we're able to make sure that everybody has access to those resources. Before all of this happened, we had grand ideas of doing like a giant resource fair party. Obviously wasn't able to happen, but still one day will. But how we're having to adapt with COVID is kind of rethinking a lot of like, not necessarily who we're trying to center, but how we're doing it. So right now it's BIPOC centered, but we are juggling the idea of making it only, like an only space. And that would also be reducing the size, because gatherings are going to have to be smaller. And it's responsible for us to have smaller gatherings because it's like the Black and POC communities who are grossly more affected by COVID. And rethinking, right, venues, sizes of venues, possibly opening up our home for smaller events. Yeah, there's a lot of shifting and renegotiating with having to adapt to COVID.
So I'm still working on that. I don't feel like I have fully adjusted at all. I'm still like in a weird, like, the virtual thing is so strange. The virtual shows, being a performer, it's always been to me about that exchange of energy, and it's just, you don't get that same thing online. So I've yet to do any of my events online yet. And of course, we haven't been able to do anything in person again because BIPOC community being so affected, I don't want to host those events, plus venues aren't even open if I wanted to. So that's been hard. Because I'm, an organizer, but also an artist myself, I've just been doing other art and creating things on my own. And so still, working to move the needle in that regard. But there was another part of that really long question that
Well, and I kind of want to pose it to you, specifically, Carla Rams, you're an independent producer. A lot of us here, we are a part of an organization that have a collective or like a team or at least like a partner. I want to kind of understand, like, as an independent producer, how are you, like, the effort that goes into your events, and like, what do you need?
What does it take? Is that what you said? Sorry, my headphones are like being really weird.
You're okay. It's technology. I was going to ask the effort that goes into producing an event, since you're an independent producer and you don't have like maybe a team or an organization. What effort goes into your events and what resources you need as an independent producer?
Yes, thank you. Sorry, these headphones are weird. Yeah, so it's a lot. My events, I not only organize, I also host the entire event and I perform. So I'm behind stage, in the front, around, in the corner, at the front door. I'm there. And so it's a lot. I have a co-producer, Cameron DeWitt Ruiz, who helps. He's helped with the beat and with Kiki Cabaret. And, without him, I would literally be lost. So I do have a partner in crime that kind of helps with those things. But resource-wise, and I guess what goes into that is, again, venue planning, paying artists, fighting with venues to pay more, fighting even more with venues to pay more, photographers, photo booth, costumes. It's a lot, and our productions are usually pretty large, and especially we do live film. So now we have to have sound crews and video people and engineers, and it's a big production. The biggest resource is money, for sure. That just would, that's kind of, I think, the biggest gatekeeper of anything, because for me, it's about paying the people and that are involved. If we had the funds to be able to pay people to get on board and to do more, we could build and build more. So I really think finances is a good way to start. And then also coupling with what Stacy said about getting these venues and these organizations to work with us to actually get a seat at the table, to be able to, have access to all these resources that we know are there, that we see other people using. So I definitely feel the frustration there. And I think that's another big resource, is just being able to tap into those networks that we don't have access to.
Yeah, I kind of want to piggyback off of that too. I'm also an independent producer and organizer. So they're like Carla runs. When I am there, I am making sure the door is run properly. I am emceeing or hosting, I am performing, I am sometimes kittening when it's, needed. And so it's been chaotic. As far as the effort that goes into events, months and months of planning and preparation. I know that when I'm brand new to Seattle, so I'm still trying to break into the scene here. The Seattle freeze is real. I'm used to Southern hospitality where we're all like, hey, and we talk in the middle of the grocery store, and you come to Seattle and no one says a word to you at all. So it's been rather chaotic trying to break into the scene here. And so like resources, I think something that we need as a community and outreach is just openness, because it can be kind of cliquey. And I think being open and willing to let someone new come in and show you something that you haven't seen before, or maybe you have, I'm not sure, like being willing to let that happen. So in Atlanta, we would plan all of our events out a year in advance, sometimes a year and a half. And so we have to plan all that. Then you got to get the casting, like has been said before. You got to book the talent. You got to work with the venue. You got to make the swag bags. You got to have the merch. You got to have the money and put all of this together. And it's chaotic. It really is. So like if you see me on show day, just don't talk to me. It's one of those things. My fiance knows that it's just crazy, and I am a chicken with my head cut off at that point. So just don't, because you're gonna get and that's it. Just yeah, it's good. As far as resources, it's been said, and I'm going to stress it again, money is huge. There have been times as a producer and an organizer that I have walked away with making no money to make sure that my talent, my cast, my crew has been paid and they got what they deserve. And that's just, the kind of job that we take when we're organizers like this and what we have. We're all starving artists, so to speak. And I don't think we should be starving anymore. There's plenty to eat, and we should all have something to eat. And adapting to COVID, we have officially canceled all of our shows for 2021, which sucks because we just opened up in Seattle with our first show at Rebar in March, and then that was it. We didn't even know if we were going to have that show, to be honest, because they were talking about closing down for COVID. But we are adapting. I am in the process of trying to work with venues, so another resource would be great if all of us got together and gave a list of venues that were open to new producers and organizers. A list of pricing for venues would be great. That way it's upfront and we don't have to like negotiate and do that back and forth bullshit of, oh yeah, well we charge this much for this show, but we'll charge you this much. And like, no, it just needs to be set front up. It's so annoying to have the go back and forth that we have. But as far as COVID, we are looking into creating an online virtual platform. There have been plenty of online shows now in which I'm a huge thing with copyright infringement and that kind of thing as well. So we're looking to create our own platform so everything is 100% legal. And we're going to start with our education platform and talking about panels and activism, and then eventually bringing our entertainment side. And we're actually going to keep the digital platform even after COVID and the opening of venues and things like that, because it does give you a broader reach. So you can have audience in Canada, you can have audience overseas, you can have audience, back at home where my parents are in Florida. So it's a great opportunity for us to have a broader reach. But COVID didn't hold us back. It's only making us stronger.
Actually, on that, oh, go ahead, Jazz. Okay, I'll go. On piggybacking off of that, because I love what you said, COVID only made you stronger. We have really been working to pivot. We've waited until recently to do digital shows. We have like dipped our feet in the water. It has been an experience of learning and growth, and that's fun. But I do really think that COVID is, if we look at it as an opportunity in event organizing, to really expand our digital platform. We can only get stronger and build our network. And what we said in the beginning of this panel is that community is so important, and that we started this as to bring in more folks. And so really this can be an opportunity for all of us. And that's how I'm looking at it. And that's how we're looking at it at Beauty Boys. As far as effort that goes into our events, you've all already said it. It's insane. I also just want to say, don't talk to me on show days. I'm not going to be nice. And if I am, it's not real. So but we are collective. We've got a lot of people. We've got a lot of people working on the event. We work with a lot of artists. Every event, last year we had an event that I think we had 35 artists working on the bill. And that was amazing. And I love it. Some people on the team want to kill me for booking that many people. And I understand that. Of course, resources. Beauty Boys is a 501c3 nonprofit. Everything that we get goes back out to the community. We would love to take corporate, if they're cool, money, and if they're not cool, we'll take more of your money and allocate it to the community. But yeah, money is great. Also, just like we want people to be involved. So of course, follow us at Beauty Boys Events on every platform. Hit us up if you want to be involved in what we're doing, or if we can help you with something that you're doing. We're here for it. So that's me.
I think I might be last. Yeah, just planning for hikes. I'll hop online, go to either Washington Trails Association or All Trails, just to find hikes that are either easy or moderate. Everything's labeled, searching for a distance that can be doable for the majority, because that's the whole point is to bring as many people out who want to be out as possible. And just making sure that they're safe. Obviously, you don't know who you're going to interact with on the trail, but if you can just read the reviews and read the most up-to-date information for those trails, that is as much research as you can do. And having a backup plan, so in case, for whatever reason, a trail is oversaturated or just doesn't exist anymore, for whatever reason, it's always good to have that backup plan. And how are we adapting to COVID-19? Well, we don't exist in the outside community. So that sucks. But platforms are still active. So on Instagram, again, I've kind of been pretty silent, other than just posting like I'm tired. Here's Black Lives Matter. Here's the only message that I feel like I can share at the moment, with beautiful saying by Maya Angelou, and continuing to amplify other either Black organizations, other voices who are similar to mine, I would say, other outdoor or outdoorsy organizations. And I feel like we're all kind of doing the same thing, where right now, I think it's like Black People Who Hike have a Black People Who Hike week, or Black People Hike week or something. So it's like every other day or every day posting something else, and that's how they're creating their community. So I'm going to share that on my platform. A bunch of other groups doing virtual hikes. I'll let people know, like, hey, there's this hike happening. I'm in Seattle, but Instagram is everywhere. Facebook is everywhere. So just recognizing that, amplifying other voices, that's how we're adapting. I've thought about doing educational pieces, because the outdoors is a great place to camp. It's a great place to go bird watching. It's a great place to like do other things, obviously. So it's also free. So I don't need these resources that you guys are talking about, which is a great, pat on the back. But these classes that I would need to educate myself further to then educate the community are not free. So I thought about asking for donations in that respect, but we are not a nonprofit. We're just a community group. So we need to figure out how to go about that, or creating a nonprofit. But yeah, I think, where are we? Let's see, readapting, resources we need, and the planning. I think I covered everything. Okay.
You did great. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. Thank you all for sharing, actually. I really appreciate your time. I know we were over time. I'm so thankful. I just want to wrap up by asking each of you to share. Caleb already did it. He shared Beauty Boys. Follow them at Beauty Boys. But feel free to share Instagram social media tags right now and Venmos and Cash Apps. So anyone who's watching, these organizers do a lot of shit for this community. These organizers are the ones who organize the parties that we used to go to. Remember parties? Remember bars? Remember going out? These are the people on the screen. Now, not all of them. Not everyone could come to this panel conversation. Where I'm going to give a shout out is to Night Crush. And please go follow Night Crush on Instagram. They're an amazing long time dance party that's been going on forever. And they do a lot of great community work. I'm going to say the Cutie Pop Collective. Please go follow them. They do different like happy hours for Cutie Pop, for the Cutie Pop community, and are branching out in that way. So follow them on Instagram. And I'm going to ask Nikita, do you want to go first on social media and money and where they can donate or what they can do for you? Ask the people. Tell them what you want.
Let me pull up my Venmo real quick. But you can follow us at Seattle Swoon, all one word. Like I said earlier, we are more quiet on our social media, just because our energy is being pivoted towards more direct community action and protesting at the moment. So unfortunately, we're a little bit more silent. But you can always follow me or the other organizer individually. And right now, so unprofessional of me, our Venmo is at NVENUS. We usually switch it around to say Swoon Seattle for events, but right as of right now, it's at NVENUS.
And Venus.
And Venus, yep.
And Venus. Okay, so drop something in the Venmo if you feel what Nikita's saying and you want to support. Carla Ron, do you want to go next?
Absolutely. So you can follow me on Instagram at Carlarans. That's CARLARANS. I am also on Venmo at Carlarans, CARLARANS. And then also on Cash App at Carlarans. That's CARLARANS. I might be the only Carlarans in existence. That is my birth name. That is my actual name. And yeah, I do all of our events obviously on my own. Most of are out of pocket. So we're not making any money on these, but what we don't make in money, we get back in love and light and community. So yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Candina?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram. It's at Candida Valentina Official. Yes, I know it's long and all that stuff. It's CANDIDA VALENTINA and then official. You also can follow Queerly, Queerly Beloved Review. It's at Queerly Beloved Review, and review is REVUE. As far as our Venmo, it is at Queerly-Beloved. And yep, Queerly has been pretty silent as well on Instagram, doing all the things and whatnot. But my personal Instagram my stories have been blowing up with lots of different activisms and companies you can donate to, small POC businesses that you can buy from. So all of that good stuff. But I look forward to seeing you on Instagram. And if you feel moved, send the money to the Venmo.
Noelle, do you wanna share?
Yeah, so ours is really simple. It's just the social queer. And we have, a Venmo that's just the social queer. Our Facebook is probably the most busiest, where you can find out about other organizations and other things about the community. It's the social queer. And then our Instagram is the social queer. And since we're not really doing any events right now, but if you feel like donating, a lot of I'm pretty sure Christina, who's the founder, and main organizer. For the social queer, we're probably just gonna go ahead and like use that donation for the Black Lives Matter movement and just donate to one of the nonprofit like profits for that. So
thank you, Noel. Actually, can I clarify? I want to clarify because you want to donate your funds because Social Queer is a for-profit organization, correct?
correct. Yeah, as of right now, we are a for-profit. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, and I thank you for supporting. Stacy.
Well, we are pretty quiet on social media, but you can find us on Instagram at Alki Beach Pride, also on Facebook at Alki Beach Pride. You must put the word beach in there or you will not find us. We do not have a donate button on ours currently. We do not have a Cash App or a Venmo account, anything like that. But if you want to leave what's up?
You have an email?
You can email at alkibeachpride@gmail.com, or you can email my personal one is Stacy J Walden @gmail.com, and that's STACY letter J Walden WADEN @gmail.com. And I usually respond pretty fast on the Alki Beach Pride one just because it's not full of junk and stuff like my other one is. So you can call me too, but I won't put that on this recording. You all can, message me and then I'll give you the phone number.
Thank you. And again, if you want to donate to Alki Beach Pride, email Stacy and let her know you want to give her some money. Just because she's not on Cash App or Venmo doesn't mean you can't give them money, all right? So shoot her an email, find her on Instagram or Facebook, donate. Last but not least, Jasmine, and I think Caleb, you already kind of gave your, right? You good, Jasmine?
Sure. We are on, when I say we, it's the entire group. I am the team, but we are on Instagram and Facebook at QPOC Hikers for both. It's QPOC Hikers. Don't have an Instagram for it, a Venmo for it, but if you feel free to personally Venmo me at Jasmine Masonette, JASMINE, Masonette, MAISONET. And that will go into, like I said, creating more of an educational platform than just hiking. So, thanks.
Thank you all so much for sharing your time, your energy, your thoughts, and everything that you do for this community. I truly, truly appreciate it.